Welcome back to the podcast, Wishing You Well. I am your host, Maria Patrick, and I am so grateful that you've tuned in today. Thank you very much for clicking play. I love having you with me as we break down the health headlines of the day, and we use the information we uncover to inspire us to live our healthiest and our best lives. I hope that while you're here, if you're listening through YouTube, you will give this episode a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And if you are tuned in through Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or another podcast platform, please go to the show info to leave a rating and a review. And of course, as always, feel free to comment about today's topic. If you're curious about me and the types of services I provide, look into the description box to find out more. This week, we're going to talk about the not-so-sweet truth about sugar. This is a tough one for me, and maybe for you too, because I most definitely have a sweet tooth. I love having a little something sweet after my last meal of the day. Two stories that were recently in the news brought me to this topic. The first is very sad. The recent passing of gospel singer and Grammy Award-winning Mandisa. You may remember her from season 5 of American Idol. Such an incredibly talented singer and beautiful person. Mandisa passed away suddenly at the age of 47 in April. I will include a link in the description box to the video of one of her biggest hits, the song Overcomer, which is a very inspiring and uplifting song, and it was on the album that won her a Grammy. Her cause of death was just released this past week. Complications of Class 3 obesity. If you're wondering what that means, body mass index, BMI, is one of the ways that obesity is defined. It's an estimate of body fat based on height and weight calculations, and Class 3 is considered the most dangerous of them all. It means that the person has a BMI of 40 or higher, or 35 or higher, with at least one serious health condition, or is 100 pounds over ideal weight. Now, this is not a body shaming thing. This is a health thing. People diagnosed with obesity are at a much greater risk of a lot of diseases like diabetes, heart attacks, stroke. It's time to focus on treatment, to get away from the stigma and the shame, and bring to the forefront the ways in which we can together fight this epidemic. When it comes to weight, it's not just about calories in and calories out. It's so much more than that. It's about making lifestyle changes and increasing exercise and making dietary adjustments and getting behavioral counseling perhaps, and perhaps the use of medications and even surgery. Mandisa was quite open over the years about her struggles. 2 years after she found herself in the top 10 of American Idol and became globally known, she shared the traumatic story of her childhood. She was raped at the age of 16, and she ended up turning to food for comfort afterwards. If you go back through Mandisa's social media posts, you'll see that she was quite a source of love and light and inspiration and support for so many. She was a champion for mental health causes. And through her music, which was so inspiring, Christian gospel music, and her Instagram posts, she put a lot of positivity out into the world. It makes her passing, particularly at such a young age, with the mission that she was on to help people, it makes her passing even more tragic. So this brings me to the not so sweet truth about sugar, which is considered a very strong contributing factor to obesity, and it's our health topic for today. The truth about sugar is that in the United States, people consume more than 300% of the daily recommended amount of added sugar. In the US, the average adult consumes an estimated 17 teaspoons of added sugar each day, and that amount accounts for 14% of the total calorie intake in a 2,000 calorie a day diet. Experts recommend that we consume no more than 6 teaspoons per day of sugar. The truth about sugar is that sugar begets sugar. It's highly addictive, more so than nicotine, cocaine, and heroin. And the more you consume it, the more you crave it. The truth about sugar is that it increases your risk of several very dangerous diseases. The truth about sugar is that obesity rates are rising worldwide, not just in the US, and that evidence suggests that sugar, often the added sugar that's hidden in a lot of the things that we eat throughout the day, and people are consuming sugar-sweetened beverage after sugar-sweetened beverage all day, that sugar is a major contributor to obesity. The truth about sugar is that we need to break up with it, and the sooner the better, for your health and your longevity. I know this podcast today is not going to make me your favorite podcaster. This topic isn't a feel-good one, but I do promise you that if you reduce your sugar consumption, you will feel better. Your health will improve. So let's break this down. I'm going to tell you the top reasons why too much sugar is bad for you. And I'm talking to myself here too. So we are in this together. Then I'm going to tell you about the steps that New York City is taking to prevent sugar from killing us softly. Killing You Softly, by the way, is the name of the book by Rich Holman that I used to research today's topic. So more about that later. All right, number 1. Consuming sugar causes weight gain. When we consume too much added sugar, you are increasing your risk of weight gain, specifically the accumulation of visceral fat. This is the dangerous kind of fat that's packed in and around our organs, and it leads to a lot of health problems. I mentioned earlier about the sugar-sweetened drinks. When we are regularly drinking sodas, juices, sweet teas, they're all loaded with fructose, which is a type of simple sugar. When we consume fructose, it increases our hunger and our desire for food, and fructose actually does this way more than glucose does. Glucose is the main type of sugar that's found in starchy foods. So excessive fructose consumption causes our body to have a resistance to leptin, which is the hormone, you may be familiar with this, the hormone that is responsible for regulating our hunger, which means it tells your body when to stop eating. So when we're taking in fructose after fructose all day, and we're doing this by drinking sugary beverages and eating a lot of candy, not only will you still be hungry, you actually end up hungrier, and you'll end up eating more, which can lead to weight gain, and it increases your risk of getting type 2 diabetes. Number 2, heart disease is currently the number 1 cause of death worldwide, and high sugar diets increase your risk of getting heart disease. That's because taking in a lot of sugar causes your body to have an increased level of inflammation. It raises your level of triglycerides. It leads to high blood sugar. It leads to high blood pressure. These are all risk factors for heart disease. You've heard of atherosclerosis, which is when your arteries get clogged with fat. Well, consuming too much sugar contributes to that. So not only does sugar increase your cardiovascular risk, but it can also increase your risk of getting a stroke. Number 3, type 2 diabetes. This is probably not a shock to you that diabetes is one of the leading causes of mortality and reduced life expectancy, and taking in more sugar increases your risk, as I said earlier, of getting type 2 diabetes. Over the 30 years that have since passed, the prevalence and incidence of diabetes has more than doubled. And experts in the health industry are projecting that its burden and increase will continue to rise. When we take in large amounts of sugar, it contributes to our weight gain, as I said before. It increases our body fat, which I mentioned, and these are both risks for developing diabetes. Obesity is considered the strongest risk factor for diabetes. The other thing that begins to happen is that when we have prolonged high sugar consumption, our bodies end up becoming insulin resistant. Insulin is the hormone produced by the pancreas that regulates our blood sugar levels. And when we have insulin resistance, the blood sugar levels are going to rise and continue to rise, and we will strongly be increasing our risk for diabetes. Number 4, when we eat excessive amounts of sugar, we're increasing our risk of developing certain cancers. One of the things that we spoke a lot about when I was in health coaching school was the fact that the cancer cells feed on sugar. That on any given day, each of us have certain cancer cells inside our body. We don't want to feed them and allow them to grow and get out of control. And when we take in a lot of sugar, we're feeding the cancer cells. A diet that's high in sugar increases the inflammation in your body, and that in and of itself increases your cancer risk. Number 5, certain foods can help improve your mood. A diet high in added sugar and processed foods actually can increase your risk of depression. High sugar consumption is linked to cognitive impairments, memory problems, and anxiety and depression, which are emotional disorders. Researchers say that when we have chronic inflammation in our bodies, when we've developed insulin resistance, we end up disrupting our reward signals in our body, the dopamine. And when this happens, it contributes to the detrimental impact on our mental health. Number 6, sugar can age you faster. In our body, we have telomeres. These are the structures that are found at the end of our chromosomes. They are the molecules that hold your genetic information. They're protective. We want them to not deteriorate. We want them to, they're going to naturally shorten the telomeres as we get older, which is going to cause our cells to age and malfunction. But we don't want to contribute to that happening any faster. And when we consume high amounts of sugar, it causes an increase or an acceleration in the shortening of our telomeres, which will increase our cellular aging. Number 7, your energy will be drained. It's a misnomer to think that when you take in sugar, you're going to get a rush. You do. You get that quick spike in blood sugar and your insulin levels. So you may falsely think you have increased energy, but the energy doesn't last very long. When you take in products that have a lot of sugar, but don't have protein, fiber, or fat, you're going to get that brief energy boost, but it's going to be quickly followed by a sharp drop in your blood sugar. And that crash is going to leave you more exhausted than you were before you took the sugar in. When we have constant blood sugar swings, this can lead to a major energy problem, just fluctuating up and down with our, like a roller coaster of energy. It's important that in order to avoid the energy draining cycle, we choose foods, even if you're eating carbs. We add into our diet carbs that are low in added sugar, rich in fiber, and pair those with protein and healthy fats. This is an excellent way to keep your blood sugar and energy levels stable. So an example of this would be having an apple and alongside of it having some handful of almonds or some almond butter or a piece of cheese. You want to contribute to consistent energy levels. Number 8, you've heard of fatty liver disease. A lot of people think it's linked to alcohol, and in part it is, but in large part it's linked once again to that enemy, fructose. Fructose, which is that common type of sugar, and it's insidious. It's in so many things. Look on the labels for HFCS, high fructose corn syrup. It's used to sweeten cereals, breads, other baked goods, candy, soda. Unlike glucose, which is taken up by the cells throughout the body, fructose ends up all in your liver. That's where it's broken down. And it has the chance in the liver to either be turned or converted into energy or stored as glycogen. But our livers are only certain size. They can only store so much glycogen before the excess amounts are turned into fat. So this is how we end up with NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's a condition that is characterized by excessive fat buildup in the liver, and that's contributed to excess sugar consumption. And lastly, number 9, consuming a diet that's high in sugar can cause you to age prematurely in the skin. We have AGEs in our body, advanced glycation end products. These are the compounds formed by the reactions between sugar and protein in the body, and they play a key role in skin aging. So when we take in a lot of refined carbs and simple sugars, this leads to the increased production of AGEs, which can cause our skin to age prematurely. The AGEs damage our collagen, they impact our elasticity of the skin, and we start to lose our youthful appearance. When collagen and elastin become damaged, our skin loses its firmness and starts to sag. Would you ever have thought that sugar is connected in this way to aging? So the other thing is, if you're not only worried about wrinkles, but you also suffer from acne, and even adults can have acne, consuming sugary foods can contribute to this as well, because that spike in blood sugar and insulin levels lead to the secretion of more oil and more inflammation, which play a role in acne development. So in order to reduce the increase of acne, we want to decrease the sugar. In the book that I mentioned earlier, Killing You Softly, the author Rich Hallman lists out 146 ways that sugar ruins your health. 146 ways. We don't have the time for me to list them all. You'll want to pick up a copy of this book just to get that list. And there's so much more helpful information in the book, including at the end, a 21-day detox program, which lists out the menu for the course of 3 weeks. And the author calls it Your Path to Your Personal Miracle. New Great Health, simple and free. Healing through nutrition, as I always say. If all of this makes you feel bad, it's not your fault. Sugar is pushed on us from a very young age. We are told things like, if you don't eat all your dinner, you're not going to get dessert. We have grown accustomed, it's a tale as old as time, to linking sugar with celebrations. Think of every time you want to celebrate something, there's always cake, candy, cookies, and ice cream involved. We celebrate holidays that revolve all around candy, like Valentine's Day and Halloween and Mother's Day. It's not our fault. We've got many, many years of ingrained habits and programming that it's going to take a little bit of effort to deprogram. So here's where I'm going to try to be of help to you. I could tell you very simply that if you focus on eating a diet that's filled with whole, unprocessed foods, that you're automatically going to decrease the amount of sugar in your diet. So let's just start with that premise. But what we really need help with is figuring out how we can reduce our intake of added sugars because they are hidden in so many things. So let's first start with those sugary drinks. Every time that you're going to reach for a soda, an energy drink, a glass of juice, a sweetened tea or lemonade, go for water or unsweetened seltzer instead. There's so many different options on the market, and you can certainly create your own. I fill a pitcher every day of filtered water with a whole bunch of different fruits, and it creates a flavorful water that I enjoy drinking. It's very refreshing, and it's not sweetened. Try to get into the habit of drinking your coffee or tea without adding in a sweetener. Or at least if you're having several cups a day of coffee or tea, start to decrease the sugar products that you add in at least one or two of those cups that you have every day. Choose plain yogurt when you go to the store and add in fresh or frozen berries instead of buying the ones that are flavored, which are sugar loaded. Try to consume whole fruits whenever possible because you're going to get that fiber, which is going to counteract the natural sugars found in the fruit. Try to replace your candy habit by having snacks around that are healthier for you, like nuts. You can always add in some dried fruit and a few dark chocolate pieces into your homemade trail mix, but focus heavy on the nuts and less on the sweets. Try to get rid of the condiments. So many condiments are filled with sugar, like salad dressings, like honey mustards, like marinades, like ketchup, like pasta sauce. Look at the labels. Try to choose the ones that have zero added sugars. When you're shopping for cereal, granola bars, breads, look for ones that have 4 grams or less of sugar per serving. Try to replace your sugary morning cereal with oats instead, and then top the oats with something that will give you energy in a sustaining, healthy way, adding in healthy fats and phytonutrients and antioxidants like nut butters and fresh berries. Make an omelet and fill it with fresh greens. With your smoothies, go heavy on veggies and light on the fruits. Instead of putting jelly with your peanut butter on a slice of bread, replace the jelly with some sliced strawberries or some crushed blueberries. Instead of using sugary spreads like Nutella, use a natural unsweetened nut butter instead. Maybe sprinkle it with some cacao nibs or some dark chocolate. And try, I know this is hard, but try to avoid alcoholic beverages. There's so many of them are sweetened with sugar or agave or lots of honey. Keeping a food diary or using an app on your phone, these are excellent ways of becoming more aware. Maybe you'll even become hyper aware of where the sugar is coming from in your diet. The best way to limit it is to know where it's coming from. Another trick is to try to eat as many healthy meals at home and have as many snacks at home as you can instead of buying foods and drinks that are highly processed, loaded with sugars and unhealthy fats. It's hard. I know. We're busy. We rely on quick meals and snacks. But since so many of these products that we buy contain added sugar, they ends up taking up a large proportion of our daily calorie intake, and we're really taking in not only empty calories, but we're losing out on nutrition. So there it is. The not so sweet truth about sugar. My new motto is that friends don't let friends consume too much sugar. Most of the information in today's podcast came from the book I mentioned, Killing You Softly by Rich Holman. This, in my opinion, is a very helpful and extremely important book about the dangerous impact that too much sugar has on both our health span and our lifespan. The book was given to me by my friend Rosemary, who herself has done a wonderful job of breaking up with sugar. So now I'm paying it forward. You have a friend in me. I'm sharing the not so sweet truth in hopes that you too will work on breaking up with your dangerous friend, sugar. Speaking of people helping each other, I mentioned this earlier at the top of the show. New York City has just enacted the Sweet Truth Act. This is a bill that Mayor Eric Adams signed into law last year, and it takes effect next week. It requires chain restaurants in New York City to add high sugar warning labels to menu items that exceed the daily amount of recommended added sugar consumption. The intention of the legislation is to help New Yorkers understand the amount of hidden sugars in their favorite restaurant foods and drinks. It's going to help them get educated about the risks of high sugar consumption, and it will hopefully lead to healthier eating habits overall. This is apparently very necessary in New York City because diabetes is the fourth leading cause of death in the city, and over half of adult New Yorkers are considered overweight or obese. New York City is leading the way in helping people take the hard step of breaking up with sugar. I said it already, and I really mean it. I will be doing it too. I hope that you will as well. Let's keep in touch as we fight this good fight together. I know it's not easy. We can do it. You can do it. I will be here for you. I will be cheering you on. And of course, I will be wishing you well.